Call this meeting to order. I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Corporation Township of Puslinch on December 16th, 2020. And for the information of individuals joining us in the gallery, I'd like to acknowledge that you are considered an inactive participant and your microphones will be muted and your video is not being recorded or seen by members of the public or us. And we will start with roll call. Councillor Bailey.
Present.
Councillor Palmer.
Present.
Councillor Goyda.
Present.
Councillor Spoulos.
Present.
And I'm present. We will now have our moment of reflection. Okay, that concludes our moment of reflection. I have Ms. Hoy Fox read out our confirmation of the agenda, please.
The council approves the December 16th, 2020 council agenda as circulated.
Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Spoulos, seconder. Councillor Bailey. All in favor. Councillor Bailey.
In favor.
Councillor Balmer.
In favor.
Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
And Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
Excellent. And any disclosure of pecuniary interest today?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Goyda.
For items 6.2, 1 through 11, and 6.16, which are the compliance assessment reports and the support for aggregate property valuation. And I do not have a pecuniary interest in receiving the information, but I do have pecuniary interest in any discussion or decision about what position the township will take, including what comments the township will provide as a family member operates an aggregate in the town.
Okay, thank you. Any further disclosure of pecuniary interests? No. Okay, Ms. Whitebox, are you going to bring in the attending long years of service award recipients?
Yes, I'll do that now. There's 4 of them, I believe, that will be moving over.
Okay, I'm just gonna be away for 1 second. My one computer isn't plugged in. So Whitebox, you want to just let me know when everybody's in, please?
Yes, all 4 recipients have been moved over.
We'll deal with that later. Okay, council, we're acknowledging some milestones with members within multiple departments in the corporation. And typically we would do this on appreciation night, and due to COVID, we had to adapt. And through discussions with our CEO, we were wanting to acknowledge these individuals, and we felt that this was the best way we could do it in a COVID-19 world. It's my hope that in the spring or early summer, maybe we could organize an outdoor event and maybe at the Murph under the roof for an appreciation and acknowledge these individuals in person. But for now, this is what we're going to be able to do. So I want to acknowledge Cameron Beaumont of the fire department for 5 years of service. And Cameron and I worked with each other at the Guelph Fire Department, and he started there as a dispatcher and has moved to the floor, and he's a valued member there as well as with Puslinch. And congratulate you on 5 years at Puslinch. You're an asset, and I encourage you to continue to be a member of Pussonage Fire, I can speak for myself that the calls at Pussonage Fire is where I gained most of my skills. It can be a good thing and a bad thing, but we definitely see a wide variety of situations in Pussonage. So congratulations on your 5 years, Cameron. I'll wait to hold applause for everybody at the end there, councillors, if that's okay.
Thank you very much.
And you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking time out of your day today.
Absolutely.
And we have Barbara Jefferson from the Heritage Committee, 5 years. It's a wonderful job that she does for that. It's important that we acknowledge the heritage of our community, and I thank you for doing that. I don't know if I see your name. There she is, Barbara. All right, you gonna see any video of you? Maybe not. Richard Hoover, he's our facilitator operator. He has 10 years of service, and when I read that, I kind of was shocked, and that made me realize that the ORC is 10 years old, and it just doesn't seem time is flying. So, and Richard's been with us the whole time. Hi, Barbara. Sorry, I didn't give you a chance to wave, but thank you for everything you do. We truly appreciate it. And
thank you so much,
you're
Mayor
very welcome.
Salley and council.
And next is Michelle Kasser, and I had no idea, 15 years. And I thought, wow, everybody with that much time left after I was elected mayor. So I was impressed that she decided to stick around and tough out the times with me. It's a complete joke. But Michelle, I know you've been working tirelessly for the township, and it's been, you know, a different year this year, but you did a great job in services, and now you've moved on to a new position, and congratulations on that, and thank you for your dedication to the township. We have Bob Bonneville, who is not able to attend today. He's likely working. I had the pleasure of working with Bob while I was at the fire department. He's a dedicated individual as well. I believe he's either an acting captain or a captain now. Maybe Cameron, you could correct me on that. Is he a full captain now? You're muted, sir.
Yes, he's full captain.
So that's great news. When I started, you know, I watched him become an acting captain, and then I left prior to him becoming a full-fledged captain, but he's always been a dedicated individual, and that's evident with 15 years service. And I assume Michael DeLue, who has the same amount of service, would have been hired with Bob Bonneville, and again, another great individual who just brought a different quality to the department, a different lens. I remember he took on, you know, the warning marks on the backs of the fire pumpers as this was becoming new to protect firefighters on scene at the 401 and busy roads. And that was one of the things I remember him taking under his wing and advocating for. So everybody so far that I've spoke about has brought a different quality and benefit to the township. So it's great. Catherine Haskell, who is not attending. I don't believe I've ever called her Catherine. I always know her as Kathy. And I kind of had to read it twice, but she's been 15 years of bartending, and I'm sure she's seen some of us at our finest and some of us at our maybe our not so finest times. She probably has quite a few stories she could tell, but maybe not during a council meeting. We'll save those for offline. But she's a resident of Morrison. I grew up with her kids, and it's my pleasure to congratulate her on 15 years of service to the PCC, which, you know, most would know, those are late nights and weekends and things like that would be away from her family, similar to the firefighters as well. Alan Gordon, 35 years. That's unfortunately he's not attending today, but that's quite a milestone. And I, you know, it's amazing to see and to know that his father as well, I don't know the exact years, but he was our fire chief. Matthew, you'd probably be able to know better than I, but I believe it was at least 35 years. He might have done 40, but that just shows the service doesn't stop at one family member. Sons, daughters, nieces, nephews like to follow. And I hope this is an indication that we are providing a good workplace, and it does show an indication of a great community that we have. And the last one on our list is Ken Tosh. And he's got 45 years. He was old when I got on the fire department, and now he's still there. Where is he? I want to see his video. I'm probably going to get a harassment complaint on me for that one, but Ken was my captain on my crew, and I served under him for many years. And then he was the captain of my wife as well. There he is. Ken, you're a little green, but you're looking good.
That's just the office here, just the reflection from the camera. So,
And I believe your father was on the fire department as well.
yeah, 29 years.
So my math isn't the greatest, but that's whatever it is, 60, 70, almost 70 something years. That's fantastic dedication from your family. And I always enjoyed working under you, Ken, and I think you do a wonderful job. And thank you for, dedicating so much time to Puss Lynch and continuing. And I'll just give each member, and I'll start from Cameron. If you want to do you have a few words you can say? I don't want to take too much time from your day.
No, nothing. Just appreciate the time for recognizing this. And 5 years with Puss Lynch has flown by, and I've learned a lot of good team members and leadership, and hopefully have another 5 more. So thank you.
I like to hear that. Barbara.
Thank you, Mayor Sealy. I want to thank yourself, fellow councilors, and the staff at the township, both for making this happen in spite of these difficult times, and secondly, for the support that I received as an acting member of the Heritage Committee. It's very refreshing, and it's very rewarding to know that we have a good place to work and that we have the support of the township staff to help us. So kudos to everybody, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas. Michelle, you're up.
Just thank you to everyone. I've enjoyed my time in Puss Lynch, and I look forward to many years more.
I hope so.
Thank you.
And who's next that's still attending? Is it just Ken, I believe?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the mayor and the council for your support. The fire department's a good place to be right now. We've got excellent leadership. Morale's good other than the COVID part, but I feel like it's a really good place to be right now. And my intentions is to stay around for a bit longer. I don't see packing it in anytime soon. So again, thanks to the council and the mayor for recognizing these years of service.
Yeah, and I want to just reiterate that it is our intention to try to do something in person come the new year, but until we know where we are with COVID, then everything's just kind of on the fly. But definitely did not want you to be forgotten and just overlooked due to a pandemic. So thanks again for all the hard work you do, and council, let's give these individuals a round of applause, please.
Mute.
Thank you.
I don't know, councilors, did you want to say any comments? I don't want to put you on the spot. I'll go quick. Councilor Bailey, I gotta get my computer unlocked anyways.
Oh, just congratulations to everyone, and thanks for all your dedication to the township. It's recognized.
Councilor Ballmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. So many of these folks are inspirations to all of us who have only just a few years under our belt. We'd have to work a lot harder to catch up to people like Ken. He certainly has a lot of history, both with himself and his dad, and same thing with Alan. I mean, they know so much, they've seen so much. I don't think I can thank them enough.
Thank you. Councilor Goyda.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you again for all your dedication, and many of you spoke about being grateful for the support that you receive, and I just want to let you know that we are also grateful for the support that you provide to us. So thank you very much, and congratulations.
And Councilor Sapoulis.
I'd like to reiterate what everybody else has said. Thank you very much for your years of service, and have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Okay. Just wait. Now we're going to kick everybody out. Sorry, Chief, I didn't see you sneak in. I didn't say hello.
All good, Mayor. Thank you very much. I just wanted to be part of that presentation.
Yeah, sorry, Chief. I didn't, I didn't see your name. There's too many names on my screen, so I apologize for that. All right. So I think that's everybody that should be in, Ms. White Fox.
Yep, that's right.
All right, can I get the resolution for the consent agenda? And then I'll ask if anybody wants anything removed.
That the consent agenda items listed for the December 16th, 2020 council meeting be received for information.
Okay, and can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Goida. Now, does any councillor want an item on that removed? Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I'd like item 6.4 just pulled out.
Okay. Any other ones, councillors? Okay, Ms. White Fox, if you could amend that resolution, just to remove 6.4, please.
That the consent agenda items with the exception of item 6.4 listed for the December 16th, 2020 council meeting be received for information.
Thank you. And you still have those recorded movers and seconders?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so all in favor, Councillor Bailey,
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Ballmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spillis.
In favor?
Okay, it's carried. Councillor Bailey, you want to talk about 6.4?
Yeah, what I would like to do is just maybe move that we forward this on to the Wellington County Climate Change Advisory Committee for comment. An example, one of the topics they're focusing on is implementing more EV stations, or they're talking about linking some. And I'm just wondering if some of this discussion would contribute to the decisions that they're making in there. So I'd like to know what they think about it.
So we got a mover for that, so we just want to second that, and then we'll just have a quick discussion.
I'll
see if
second it.
there's support. Thanks, Councillor Ballmer. Okay, so you might as well go next, Councillor Ballmer.
I think Councillor Bailey's correct. Any information that can help with the discussion that we're having about investing and putting in more charging stations, I want to make sure that the county's making those decisions based on the best information. I recognize, and I read this, it may not be strictly municipal other than the charging stations, but those gas plants were never intended to provide base load. They were intended to provide peak load. So it may change the metric around the benefits of installing EV stations. So I think it's good to get the feedback of our own committee on this, and so our committee can make a better decision. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Goida.
Yes, I agree, and I would support that.
Right. Councillor Spillis.
I'm in agreement and I support as well.
Okay, Ms. White Fox, you want to read a resolution?
That the consent agenda item 6.4 listed for December 16th, 2020 council meeting be received, and that staff be directed to forward item 6.4 City of Hamilton request for cap on gas plant and greenhouse gas pollution be forwarded to the County of Wellington Climate Change Advisory Committee for review and comment.
Can we use the same mover and seconder for when we discuss it, or do I have to get new ones?
Should get a new one.
I'll move if
there you
needed.
go. Thank you. Councillor Ballmer moves, seconder. Councillor Bailey, all in favor. Councillor Bailey,
In favor.
Councillor Ballmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
and Councillor Sapoulos.
In favor?
All right, and I meant to do delegations before we did that, but that's okay. So we will do the delegations now. We're not too far behind anyways. Nope, 225. Are they available, Ms. White Fox?
Yes, I have two individuals looking to get delegates, so I'm just moving them over now.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Is there two, Ms. White Fox, you said, right? There we go, Tom. Okay, welcome. And you may start whenever you're comfortable.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. My name is Stephanie Obeck-Swand, and I'm the Executive Director of REA Charitable Research Reserve. Can you actually see my presentation right now?
It's not shared on our screen. I was going to pull it up on my own.
Mr. Mayor, I can share it on my screen. I have it ready to go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Are we all going to be able to see it, or?
Once she shares it,
Yeah.
It should show up on all of us,
Wonderful.
all of our screens.
Oh, there we
There
go.
we go. Yep. There we go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So thank you very much for welcoming us here today. And we are here to introduce ourselves as sort of the new kid on the block, because we are expanding into the area. And I think we have a number of programs you might be interested in. Next slide, please. So today I will talk about the REAS land securement strategy for Waterloo Region, Wellington. But let me give you a little bit of an overview of who we are and where we're all of a sudden coming from. So REA is a land trust and environmental institute, and as such, conservation has always been our priority since the organization was founded in 2001. So now 20 years later, we currently own 989 acres of conservation land in Waterloo Region and Wellington County. And our environmental education and research programs also continue to grow. And in fact, we are currently in the process of finalizing our next 5-year strategy and plans. And one key focus will be to launch and implement the REA Sites land securement strategy, which I will be talking about here today. Next slide, please. Thank you. As you're all likely most well aware of, Wellington County is home to more than 90,000 people and expected to grow by 85% over the next 30 years. So with this increase in population, land, of course, also is increasingly becoming more highly sought after. And it is important that we grow the percentage of conservation land alongside development to be able to protect ecosystem services and other benefits our health and well-being and also our agricultural system depends upon. Next slide, please. In fall of 2014, a first meeting of local representatives was initiated by a former planner at the region of Waterloo to discuss the opportunity for a community-organized, not-for-profit, multi-property land trust strategy for the area that this red arrow here is pointing to, which was previously known colloquially as the hole in the donut, which is basically Waterloo Region, Guelph, Wellington. After many follow-up meetings with representatives from various environmental groups and other interested parties in the area, a number of people came together to form what is now known as the REA Sites Land Securement Team as part of REA's organizational framework, and with the particular mandate to develop and implement a land securement strategy for Waterloo Region, Wellington. Next slide, please. I'm sure, as most of you are aware, there are a number of other organizations in the area who also have an environmental focus that relates to the protection of land in some way. However, many of them are currently not actively acquiring new lands for conservation, or their focus is simply slightly different. For example, the Ontario Farmland Trust is mostly focused on farming easements. But many of the organizations that are listed here have also since become partners in our efforts and are members of the REA Sites Land Securement Team. Next slide, please. So the purpose of a land securement strategy is to identify parcels of interest for conservation. In our case, this meant applying a watershed perspective, as natural lands and ecosystem services, of course, don't just stop artificially at the municipal boundaries that we make, and protecting the tributaries of and headwaters of the Grand, for example, will have a very significant impact on the communities and ecosystems that are further downstream as well. So the main criteria that we applied included the ecological significance, connectivity, and size of any potential parcels. And basically, we looked at the map and determined desirable characteristics of conservation lands, such as wetland, floodplain, woodlots, and also the proximity to already existing secured lands. And this was then also followed by an analysis of potential threat of urbanization, the potential for funding, and we also wanted to make sure that the geographic dispersion really covers and serves every lower tier municipality within the region of Waterloo and Wellington County. And of course, we also had to somewhat limit our efforts of looking at property and landowner contacts in terms of numbers that we can reasonably work through within the first 3 to 5 year period of this program. So overall, this allowed for a modeling process that we called the RARE score, and it was undertaken in GIS, a Geographic Information System. So basically what you do is you make layers on the computer in this geographic information system to identify any desirable conservation lands as per the parameters that I described earlier. And then you can calculate the percentage of each parcel in the parcel fabric that consists of these types of lands. And the ones that score really highly in the 90s to 95th percentile in terms of coverage, that was what resulted in the following map. Next slide, please. So in total, we looked at almost 15,000 parcels that were analyzed using this geographic information system model. And the result was that we identified 17 target areas with a total of 365 properties of interest. And on average, these target areas have between 7 and 81 lots per area. And those are the ones that really rated the absolute highest. And that means they have most likely the most desirable land for conservation. So in the township of Puslinch, we identified 2 target areas, one which we named the Speed River target area, and the other one is called the Galt Creek and Forest target area. And in total, there were about 62 properties in those areas, which amount to about 3,600 acres. And there's a little green circle around the Eramosa River Valley, because we have an example of what a securement process can look like further down in the slides. Next slide, please. I would like to talk to you a little bit about targets. We've currently shortlisted a property that is under some form of consideration for conservation, which is already much above the target of 400 hectares protected in 5 years. But some of the properties that are currently under consideration may actually take quite some time before those projects can be closed, in particular because we're also planning to raise a 20% stewardship endowment with every lot we secure to really make sure the long-term protection of these parcels is guaranteed. Next slide, please. Coming to our example, so to give you a better idea of what these individual target areas look like, here is a simplified map of what we have named the Eramosa River Conservation Corridor. So you can see sort of in the center of this map that this area already has a protected lot that belongs to the GRCA, who is a conservation partner. And we acquired the first parcel under RARE ownership last year, which is here outlined as property 1 in that kind of green color. And we are also working on finalizing the second project, which is here outlined in red. And then hopefully a third parcel will also come to RARE actually as an eco-gift donation in the next year. So this map gives you a little bit of a better idea of what a long-term effort this will be, because of course the remaining areas also contain numerous parcels that over time could actually be connected to form a larger green corridor for maximum conservation impact. Next, please. We have supplied you with a shortened version of our land securement strategy document, which contains all the detail on the background on how data was selected in target areas and securement options. Securement options are interesting because often landowners are familiar with only 2 options. They either sell their land or they bequest it to their children. But depending on the conservation mindset of the owners, this might not always be the best long-term option if they wish to preserve their lands for conservation. Next slide, please. So this lists a number of different options that can be employed. We hope that many of the lands that we have identified and that are currently under consideration will come to RARE as land donations, which of course from an organizational budget perspective as a registered charity is highly desirable, but other options as listed here also exist. For example, conservation easements, which are an instrument that can be put on title while the current ownership and the current landowner is maintained. Next slide, please. So as a land trust and registered charity, RARE is certified by the federal government to receive land donations under the EcoGifts program. And this program is actually very attractive to landowners who consider making a donation, as it comes with multiple benefits as listed here. And it also ensures yet another level of protection, because lands that were given to an organization or a municipality as an eco-gift can only be held ever by other eco-gifts recipients. So in the unlikely case that an organization should ever cease to exist, the land would then also have to go to another eco-gift recipient. And this is really giving the donor a lot of peace of mind that long-term protection and perpetuity of these lands really will be ensured. Next slide, please. Well, thank you so much for letting me present here today. We're really just here to introduce the program to you. We hope that over time we can learn more about the conservation opportunities in the township and that we can start to build a relationship. And if you work with landowners or developers who might have an interest to donate surplus land that could be become part of a larger conservation program on a landscape scale, we're happy to work with you and them to find the best solution for those. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think you're doing wonderful work, and I would suggest even partially posting your presentation to the local internet media. I mean, if we can get this message out to more residents of Plus Lunch, I believe you'll see some donations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think would be wonderful. We're only just kind of starting to really become very vocal about it. So the more people learn about it, I think the more chance there is that the program will grow over time, which would be highly desirable, particularly now as we're kind of restarting, getting out of the COVID situation. Hopefully, I think it really fits nicely into the idea of a green recovery as well.
Excellent. Okay, Councillor Bailey.
There we go. I'm unmuted. Well, that was, thank you for your presentation. I do think this is a really great way to help preserve some of our green space for the future. It's a good way to go. My question was going to be, what process are you using to reach out and to spread your words? So
yeah, this is a good question. So we have started to present to all 13 councils in Waterloo Region, Wellington, Guelph, to make sure there is buy-in and knowledge at the political level. We're also working to get it out into the news as well. And we're also planning a mailing campaign to reach out to landowners in those different target areas as well.
Great. Thank you.
Councillor Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome. Thank you for your presentation. I'm sorry I missed, I believe you did a presentation to Friends of Mill Creek a while back, and I'm sorry I missed that. Boy, interesting. Lots of things came to mind. You said that if people could take comfort that if they left a piece of property to a place like RARE, it could only be sold to a similar organization. And it brings to mind, what if someone wanted to leave you a property and only part of it was worthy of conservation? Would you not be able to sell parts of it to fund your operations?
Yeah, so the answer is it depends, because this only applies if a property is given as part of an eco-gift donation. So there are very specific sort of regulations that apply to a donation in that context as per that federal program. So those properties can only be dispersed to another eco-gift recipient. So if there was another organization, say for example, the Nature Conservancy of Canada, who is an eco-gift recipient, could also take on those properties. In terms of other relationship, it depends on how the property is acquired. If we, for example, were to make a purchase and we know there is a developable piece in that lot, those are often called, kind of in the land trust community, they're called trade lands. Like if you can sever those off and can use the funds from that purchase to roll over into the next land securement project, you might at the end have an overall gain for conservation. If you can sever off, say, a couple of acres to purchase the next 50, that still makes sense in that context.
Well, that's good, because I could imagine there'd be some landowners who would like to make those arrangements up front with the organization, that there's a piece of their property they'd like to see conserved, but recognize there's a piece that might be able to still be gifted, but sold off to benefit
absolutely.
the organization.
This is what we're currently looking into as well, in terms of how can a conservation severance be already completed before a donation is being made, so that only the piece that is of ecological significance can be donated to RARE, whereas the landowner either keeps the lot with the house where they live in, or they can sell that piece separately from the eco-gift.
Or make the arrangements before RARE gets it, and it can be sold accordingly to the benefit of RARE. I think I'm glad there's some flexibility here, because this gives people some comfort and understanding that they can contribute to the direction, even instead of waiting for someone else to decide after the fact. So thank you very much. I will share this information with people that I know who might be interested. And hopefully you'll maybe acquire a few more properties here in the township. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Thomas, anything you wanted to add to that in that planning context?
I'll get to Thomas once I let Councillor Goyda have a chance. Sorry, Tom. Councillor Goyda?
Thank you. I don't really have any questions. I think thank you for coming today and presenting to us, because it's something I don't think was maybe in the forefront of people's minds. And I think in your one slide, you said most people only know of two ways of disposing of land, is either selling it or leaving it to their children. And I think you're right, because it's not something that probably most people are aware of. So I think the more that you can show your presence here in the township, I do think that there will be a desire for some people to donate some land. So that's really it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goyda. Tom, did you have anything you wanted to add? Oh, sorry, Councillor Skoulas. That's my bad. I messed up the order. I'll let Tom speak, and I'll get back to you, Councillor Skoulas, just because I already called on him.
Yeah, just to add to what Stephanie was saying about the conservation severances. So, of course, if you have a piece of land that has, an area of green space, woodland, and then you have a house or a buildable lot, then that's the area that has most of the dollar value in terms of selling. So if people are able to make a donation of the green space while keeping the house that has the value that they can continue to live in or sell, or and possibly use the eco-gift donation of the green space to offset taxes that they may owe, or capital gains that they may owe on the property, then they can certainly come out ahead, as well as protecting land that they may feel an attachment to, rather than not quite knowing what's going to happen to it in the future, which I think has a lot of value to some people who've lived on their land for a long time and would like to see it protected. And yes, I did come and speak to Friends of Mill Creek as well about a stream restoration that we had. That was a couple years ago now, in the pre-times.
Okay. Councillor Skoulas?
A quick question. These lands that you hold, are they available for general public to walk through and partake in nature observing?
Yeah, most of them are. So we currently have over 8 kilometers of trails that are free and accessible to everyone during daylight hours for passive recreation opportunities. And we hope that we also can continue that to grow that as we acquire additional property that often already comes with pre-existing trails as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you for coming and making us aware of your organization. I wasn't aware of this organization until you showed up.
Thank you.
I want to know, have you presented to any of the conservation authorities in the area?
Well, we have a really good and close relationship with the GRCA, and usually GRCA staff is part of our rare sites land securement team as well. We're not quite as familiar with the other authorities in the area, so that's kind of a next step of what we're also looking into.
I would suggest building those relationships. I'm hearing grumblings that they're going to be, focusing on their core priorities, and their very passive lands are going to need to be divested. And I think this would be a great opportunity for an organization like yourself. It's not always necessarily within the means of our small municipality to take on all these extra properties. And then in my mind, I think they're more protected when they're a little bit at arm's length away from government. And so that would be a great opportunity. So that would be my suggestion to you from the things that I'm hearing in the background is start building some more of those relationships, and be sure to reach out to me once in a while, and I'll be in contact. And if I hear anything, I'll let you know, and maybe we can get something done. But thank you very much for your presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Whitefox, you have a resolution, please?
The council receives the delegation by Stephanie Sobek-Swant and Tom Woodcock, Rare Charitable Research Reserve, regarding new information on Rare's land securement strategy for information.
Okay, I'm gonna move her for that, please. Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Spoulis. All in favor? Councillor Bailey,
In favor?
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulis,
In favor?
and that's carried. Again, I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have our public meeting, which is being held tonight. And it's at 7 p.m. and it's in regards to the kennel housekeeping amendment and the Diodoro Enterprises for the official plan amendment. So I look forward to seeing everybody 7 o'clock tonight for those. Reports, fire none. And council, I was hoping we could deal with 9.4.1. Zach and Curtis are here, and deal with them first, and then we'll let Mary have the floor for all of her reports. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
I see some nods. Okay. Sorry, Mary.
No problem.
All right. Zach. Where's Curtis?
So through the chair, I can just do a brief presentation.
Sure. I wasn't sure if Curtis was joining us or not, but I don't see him, so you might as well just do the presentation. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, Curtis is here as well. We can
he
maybe
is.
once we get to the question period, we can bring him in a little bit more too. But so through the chair, council may recall we had a public meeting on October 21st for the proposed housekeeping amendment. The zoning amendment is part of a township-led initiative, which aims to clarify, improve, and refine sections of the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw was adopted by Township Council in April 2018. It was then appealed and was approved by the Land Planning Appeal Tribunal in January 2020. So since that time, staff has been working very closely with this bylaw, and a number of these changes have been brought on by staff using these new kind of aspects of the bylaw, and also brought on by public comments and feedback as well too. So there is a detailed chart included in this report, and the chart goes through every change that we're proposing to make and aims to explain all those changes. So I'll provide a summary of some of the comments from the public meeting and some of the planning aspects of this as well too, which is laid out in the report. So, at the public meeting on October 21st, there were some delegations that presented. A number of their comments relate to the home industry regulations, the accessory building sizes on farms, parking of commercial vehicles on farms, the site-specific zoning of a property on Maltby Road, and the industrial overlay mapping and site-specific outdoor storage permissions. There were also some written submissions which were received. The written submissions identified lot frontage as a potential item. It also identified the same property on Maltby Road and another property at the corner of McLean Road and Brock Road, which is the former St. Mary's cement property. These amendments were also brought forward to the Planning Development Advisory Committee, PDAC, on September 8th. So some of the comments and changes that we made since the public meeting. So related to home industry provisions, the comments that we received were largely to deal with the number of employees and outdoor storage. So as a result, we've proposed to limit the number of employees to 3 on the property. That's included in this report. Also identified was the storage of toxic chemicals and the use of toxic chemicals within a home industry. We tried to clarify that not only is the use prohibited, but also the storage is prohibited for a home industry. The last, and finally, to try to ensure that these home industries are still a small scale industry. Related to accessory building sizes on farms, we noted through using the bylaw that the accessory building sizes in the township are quite large compared to other townships in terms of permissions. Accessory buildings are typically like a garage, a garden shed, a pool shed, that sort of thing. And in some townships, and including in Puslinch in the new bylaw, it's a sliding scale of the size of your lot allows you to have a larger accessory building. So when it came to farm buildings, our thought was that was an accessory, that was a agricultural use, not an accessory use. So the comments that were brought forward about that, we feel require further clarification for agricultural uses based on some of the definitions that are in the bylaw. So staff are actually proposing to not make a change at this time to the accessory structure size on lots greater than 4 hectares, but only introducing the changes which would reduce the size on lots less than 4 hectares in size or 10 acres. Related to commercial vehicles, similar concern was raised with parking commercial vehicles in the agricultural zone. We were seeking to clarify that it was allowed in the agricultural and residential zones. Currently, the bylaw is clear that it's allowed in the residential zone. We also feel that we require a bit more time to look at that specific wording and the specific definitions in the bylaw. So we have proposed to remove that change at this point. The other item was the parking of recreational vehicles. And that's something that we are proposing to change to match the definitions of recreational vehicles and travel trailer parks. So one of the larger items is the industrial design overlay, which applies to certain properties in the township. So we're looking to clarify that outdoor storage would be permitted on a property if they've gone through the process of a site-specific zoning amendment. So the zoning amendment would address items of setbacks, and determining if it's appropriate or not on the site. So we were clarifying that, and we are proposing to add wording that would allow outdoor storage if a zoning amendment can be achieved. We're also revising the wording so that it's clear that the industrial design overlay only applies to the lands identified on Schedule B4 in the zoning bylaw. And further to that, we did receive an additional comment from GSP related to the wording of the bylaw. So planning staff, when we do bring the final bylaw forward, we would like to make one small change, which just clarifies the section that the site-specific exemption refers to. The last item that we propose to change is actually the definition of industrial uses, dry industrial uses. We had been proposing to clarify when a use is considered dry and when it's not. So we were seeking to try to tie the requirement for a permit to take water to a dry industrial use. And what we've done is we've proposed to relate to the number of liters used per day to the property in terms of water taking and in terms of sewage produced as well too. So the numbers that we have in there are related to the numbers required for a permit to take water and related to an MOE permit for a septic, an enlarged septic on the property as well. So we're hoping that that addresses the concerns from a planning standpoint. We've also included a draft zoning bylaw amendment for council's consideration, and happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bailey?
Hi there. Thanks, Zach, for that overview. That's good. My one question is just regarding the home industry provisions. We talk about outdoor storage not being permitted at all, but I'm wondering if there's room to do temporary outdoor storage. And then I don't know how we determine what temporary is, but that was just something that I wasn't sure if that's come up in discussion.
Through the chair, we have discussed it with staff. I think what we've discussed is also how to enforce something like a temporary outdoor storage area. I think what we've proposed maybe isn't the perfect solution or ideal solution, and I think there's always room for some changes as well too. We did try to keep these amendments to kind of something that's a little bit more straightforward and easy to implement as well too. So that was kind of our thought leading into this. I mean, we could always do further review as well too.
Okay, no, I think I'll leave it at there. Let's see if other discussion comes. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bulmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate the presentation and the overview and the work you've put into this, and obviously the thought you've put into many of these areas. I particularly appreciate the attention that's been given to the dry industry piece. You know, the way it's been worded in the past, you know, Rutham's Gourmet Preserves, you know, doesn't need a water taking permit, would not have been allowed in our industrial park, but Maple Leaf Foods, which, you know, has a 500,000 liter a day water taking permit, but is not considered what was considered a dry industry because they didn't use it in their product. So this seems to start to make more sense than the way we were looking at things before. So I appreciate that. But my concerns are also around the home industry changes, and I share Councillor Bailey's comments about prohibiting storage fully with regard to a home industry. I completely understand we don't want outdoor storage as a home industry, just like an automobile use, auto service shop would not be considered acceptable as a home industry. But I think we do need to put some thought around this we do have a lot of there's uses that are listed there, specifically carpenter shops, welding shops, these things. And we've done a lot to limit the scale by limiting the size. And some of them may have a contract to manufacture a dozen of something and need to store them outside as they're produced before they leave the site. So I think we need to look at that to make sure that they have that opportunity so they can actually do that. Do you think there's a way that we could do it? If we can't do it based on temporary, could we do it based on square footage, some sort of relationship with the square footage that's already permitted?
Through Mayor Sealy to Councillor Balmer. Yeah, I think it's a decision for the township if it's you know, if the township has interest or, you know, sees value in allowing some accessory outdoor storage is what I'm hearing as part of a home industry. I mean, that is an option. You know, things to consider would be a appropriate size limit, the location, and as you mentioned, Councillor Balmer, to make sure it's not primarily an outdoor storage use, but really accessory to that use. I know that is something that could be considered. I think the structure of the bylaw right now is it doesn't permit outdoor storage clearly, and I think that's why we were looking to provide that clarification. But it was in the form of a prohibition, a clear prohibition. However, if council had, you know, wanted to head in a different direction, that's something we could consider and come back on.
Well, I think it would demonstrate some reasonableness, and I think Councillor Bailey used an interesting term, and so did you. If and maybe we combine the two, if it's temporary and accessory too, we know it's something that's not permanent, and we manage. I think parking enforcement manages with a piece of chalk to determine how permanent something is, and perhaps if we had a complaint that something had been there for 6 months or a year, that certainly would violate any definition of temporary if it became a permanent outdoor storage or something. So is this something you think you could, you said you're going to come back with another draft anyway. Is this something that you want to fix in that draft or park for a later housekeeping amendment?
Through Mayor Sealy to Councillor Palmer, yeah, it may be something that we may need a little more time to. I think we're hoping with town staff to see some of the more straightforward amendments and housekeeping things brought forward and put into effect. Yeah, I think we'd want to look at this a little further to compare what some other municipalities have considered and yeah, give it some thought. I think, you know, one thing to think about, how do we make sure it's accessory and has limits. I mean, other things to think about are the lot sizes, like on a 1 acre or half acre lot. If someone had outdoor storage, it's pretty difficult to squeeze that on or fit it on without interfering potentially with a neighbor. So those would be things, that'd be, for example, something we'd want to look at a little more, if there should be minimum lot size or that sort of thing.
Okay, great, thank you. The other piece is about the the change to about the number of employees. I really have a lot of concerns about this change because in effect what the new change is we're trying to regulate then how many people that live in the house are allowed to work in the home industry. So if you have a family of 4, the new regulation says only 3 of them can be employed, without defining whether it's even full-time, part-time, or anything. So I don't think that was the intent initially. I know when we went through this process, there was a lot of concerns before about people zoning and trying to regulate things through how people are related, because it used to say family members at one time. And I would, you know, I think when this bylaw was developed, a lot of work went into controlling the scale was going to be done best by controlling the size. And if 4 people already lived on the lot, allowing 2 additional, it was those 2 additional that created the extra traffic. 4 people living on the lot already doesn't necessarily drive additional traffic, but the 2 offsite employees do. And I couldn't support the idea of that change in the definition for employees, because that a lot of thought and a lot of work went into that. And I don't want to go back to people zoning or telling someone that because there's 5 of you living in the house, only 3 of you are allowed to work in the home industry and the rest of you have to leave the site to go to work. That just doesn't seem like a good planning strategy to me. So do you have any concerns about leaving it the way it is?
Through Mayor Sealy, yeah, I think the key thing, and that exists in the bylaw, and we did provide some additional wording to further clarify that it should be a resident of the property, and I think that would be carried forward. Yeah, in terms of limiting the number of employees, I think we considered a public comment, and I think ideally it's unlikely there would be someone that had 15 residents on the property employed. So there maybe is potentially only a small risk that it could be a large number of employees, but I think certainly we would look for council's comment on that.
Yeah, and to that example, even if there were 15 people living on the property, the home industry is limited in size anyway. And if those 15 people are living there, they're already there. It's not like it's generating additional traffic. So I just think it's best to put the limits on the scale of it by putting the limit on the size. It's easier to regulate rather than asking people about their residence or how they're related to the people. So anyhow, the other piece, the last one, has to do with the use of the suggested prohibition on toxic chemicals. I didn't pick this up when we went through the bylaw the first time until there was a discussion here in this housekeeping amendment. And it made me realize that it's kind of a nefarious definition. And if I look at the uses that would be permitted as a home industry, a carpentry shop, plumber shop, welding shop, these things, each of these at some time need to use as part of their work something that could be considered toxic chemical, whether it's a degreaser, adhesive, paint thinner, lacquer thinner, something like that. Again, just like the outside storage, absolutely, we want to make sure that the storage of toxic chemicals is not permitted as a home industry. But I think to be reasonable, we need to let the source water protection regulations around the use of toxic chemicals and storage of small amounts, that falls on source water protection. And I think maybe we have an opportunity here to identify that link in the zoning bylaw, but leave it to source water protection regulations to determine where they can't be used, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, through Mayor Sealy. Yes, you've I think pointed out that the term toxic chemicals isn't specifically defined in the bylaw. We do have a prohibited use section, and it does talk about more example of what isn't an appropriate use in the township in relationship to chemicals. So I think it's something we can consider if we can tweak that wording a little further and either link it to source protection. The one thing that comes to mind offhand is if it was in an area where the source protection plan didn't apply. Now that may not be very much the township does that tweaking work there, but I think certainly we could follow up with our friends at Source Protection as well to get some assistance. They were helpful to us as was the town's hydrogeologist, township's hydrogeologist for when we were dealing with dry water industrial uses. So we could seek their input as well.
Well, thank you. I think that would be helpful because yes, there'd be maybe most of the township there are no limits, but in the places where there are, I think it's important to make the landowner and land user aware of those limits and let them be the driver so that we're not doubling up or possibly creating loopholes or things where the puzzle pieces don't fit exactly together. So thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Okay, Councillor Goyda.
Thank you. And thank you to you both for all your hard work on this amendment. I did just have a note here about something that read a little funny to me, but now that Councillor Balmer has spoken, it may be irrelevant depending on which direction we go. But it's to do with the home industry again, and under the definition, it's written that a home industry may only be conducted in an accessory building by the resident or residents of the dwelling up to a maximum of 3 employees. And to me, that reads as 3 employees who are residents. It's kind of confusing. But in the 4.12, it says a maximum of 3 employees may be employed by the home industry, including 2 of which may not be permanent residents. And I believe that is the actual intent. But just the way the definition is written, it reads to me as it can only be the residents who work there. And I'm not sure if I'm reading too much into that or if that's an interpretation issue, but if it's confusing to me, it may be confusing to others. But I do agree that I understand where the concern stems from in terms of the home industry, potentially having 10 residents that live in the house working in the home industry, as well as 2 additional, and that's a concern. But I am having a hard time seeing how that is any different than just 10 people living in the house. They're coming and going anyway. So we're not, by restricting how many residents can be part of the home accessory business, we're not really reducing any of the traffic coming in and out. So I would tend to agree with Councillor Balmer that I think that the scale of that home industry should be more based on the size itself rather than the number of people. And that's just sort of my 2 cents.
Did you guys want to comment on the clarification of what the intent was?
Thanks, Mayor Sealy. Yes, Councillor Goyder, the second reference is what's intended, and I can have another look at that wording and maybe pull it out of the definition to make sure that it's clear. But yeah, if council wanted to go in that direction, I would could clarify the wording to make sure it doesn't read that they're only residents.
Okay, Councillor Spills.
Yes, with respect to Councillor Bulmer's comments on the linking the contaminant source water protection areas, not all of Puslinch is under a source water protection area. So I think it's important that this clause be in there. I can understand you want to link and not have the overlap. The source water protection policies do talk about quantities within different areas type of thing. And we certainly have areas here that are definitely not covered under the, that are not considered covered under those policies. So it's important that we do have something in our zoning bylaw to cover that off. I don't have a problem with just suggesting linking the two, but I just don't want to say rely everything on the source water protection, and we have a lot of holes in the township that won't be covered off. With respect to the number of employees per home industry, I think the concern is where somebody has a home industry and they bring in 20 people from the outside, and there's only one person from the actual family working on that. I think that that's where the problem lies, that it's not a home per se industry. It's basically a factory located in the township, and it's not really related to something that's appropriate, can be labeled as a home industry. So I think that should be looked at in a little bit more detail. I understand scaling it maybe make more sense, but I think the issue is trying to confine it to the people who live and work there and have a minimum of extra people coming in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I agree with that statement, Councillor Spillis. So I believe we're gonna have to remove the home industry and come back. I think you guys are seeing a little bit of direction from council. We should talk about the source water. Councillor Balmer, are you comfortable with leaving it in because of what Councillor Spills identified is that, you know, source water doesn't cover all of the township, so this would capture the rest of it?
Well, thank you. The only challenge is the way it's worded now is in my garage, I can have the toxic chemicals, but in my home industry, I cannot. So I can have paint thinner, adhesives, or in my drive shed, I can have all, but in the portion, if I happen to have a home industry, that portion, I can't have them there. And I don't see how that makes a difference. Why limit someone having paint thinner in their workshop, but they can have it in their garage? It just, it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I'm thinking that if there isn't a source water protection reason to prevent it from being on the property, why should we say this 100 square feet of the property, it can't be, but on the rest of the property, it can be? I don't see.
Yeah, I think staff, you're gonna have to come back to us on that one as well and give it some more thought. Okay.
And if I could, Mr. Chair, I think what I
Absolutely.
heard from members of council is exactly to Councillor Spoulis's point, the existing wording around employees is the way to capture the concern that Councillor Spoulis was suggesting, that it limits the 2 offsite employees. And that was the point of the existing wording. And if we leave it the way it is, that's the limit, the 2 from offsite, and the size, the square footage limits the scale.
Okay, just one second. I agree, but you still want to give staff the opportunity to go back and give it some thought and return. Okay. All right, so that was section 8, section 412. Is there anything else that you brought forward as a concern that you want removed before we read the resolution? Councillor Bailey? No. Councillor Balmer?
Well, I'm not thinking that any of it's to be passed today. This is just our first kick at the can. The public had their input. Now we've had our input, and I think the plan is staff is going to take it back and refine it and come back with another proposal for us to consider. Is that not the case?
I did hear Curtis mention there were some components that they would like to see implemented, and is that not the intent today, Zach and Curtis?
Yeah, I think ideally as soon as we could to see some of the areas that we're council was okay with, that we could see those put into place. I think what we need to do ultimately to have the bylaw prepared. I guess what I'm suggesting is in the meeting in January, we could come back with a tuned up bylaw and it could be placed on the agenda, and we can pull out the sections that we need more time. So if home industries, we'll pull those out and have a further review of those, tweak a couple bits of wording that I think were very minor, and we can take a crack at see if we can get a definition, improve the definition for, well, I guess actually in terms of toxic chemicals that might get parked with the dry industrial, or sorry, with the home industry uses right now anyways. So yeah, so sorry, after rambling, we'll come back in January with a tuned up bylaw for council to give final consideration.
Perfect. I like that. So we'll receive it for information. You'll take the direction from council. Any further where were we? So Councillor Goyda, anything further?
No, nothing further.
And Councillor Spoulis?
I'm good. I just don't want the entire housekeeping amendment be held up because of a couple items. So in January, if there's a couple of things that are thorns in our sides, let's pull them out and get the rest of the thing done.
I agree. Okay, Mr. Fox, you have a resolution?
Yes, I do. Just one moment. I'm just finishing it up here.
It could be just staff proceed as directed by council and it's captured in, is that good enough, Mr. Schwendinger? Or do we need to identify each component that we discussed?
Did you want to hear maybe what I've drafted and you can see if it captures it, or
Sure.
maybe if we want to simplify it a little bit? Okay.
No, if you're ready, yeah, go for it.
The council received the County of Wellington Planning Recommendation Report, Housekeeping Zoning Bylaw Amendment, and that county planning staff remove the proposed amendments relating to home industry and give further consideration to Section 3 home industry and Section 4.12 home industry regarding the potential for temporary and accessory outdoor storage, the maximum number of employees permitted, and the storage of toxic chemicals, and that county planning staff bring forward a final draft bylaw for approval at the January 13th, 2021 council meeting.
Okay, Councillor Bailey. Any concerns?
Sounds good.
Councillor Palmer?
One small little tweak, if you could just add use and storage of toxic chemicals, that'd be great. Right now it just says storage, if you could just use and. As a small,
Okay, I've made that amendment.
thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Goyda?
I'm good.
Councillor Willis?
I'm good too.
All right, so I'm gonna move her for that. Councillor Willis, seconder. Councillor Goyda, all in favor. Councillor Bailey?
In favor.
Councillor Balmer?
In favor.
Councillor Goyda?
In favor.
Councillor Willis?
In favor.
That's passed. Okay, thank you, Curtis and Zach. We'll see you in January. Thanks for the good work. Oh yeah, see you tonight. I already forgot about that. Just kidding. All right, so now Ms. Hassan is going to be on the hot seat for a little while. Spot. All right, so 9.21. Ms. Hassan, you want to give us a little synopsis of Finance Report 2020-041?
Sure. So the purpose of this report is to just provide council with an update on our discussions with Manulife and Mosey as it relates to removing the termination age associated with Manulife coverages. As you can see in the report, Manulife and Mosey have indicated that termination ages can't be removed and are required to be continued. So this is just a report back to council and to finally pass the bylaw as it relates to the changes that were authorized by council in August.
Perfect. I'll get Ms. Hoyt Fox to read the resolution first, then we can discuss.
That report FIN 2020-041 regarding council compensation benefits and expense policy final be received, and that council gives 3 readings to bylaw number 2020-058 being a bylaw to adopt the council committees and other appointments, compensation, benefits, and expense policy.
Can I get a mover for that, please?
Move.
Councillor Balmer, second by Councillor Spillis. Comments, Councillor Bailey, anything?
No, no comments.
Councillor Balmer,
Nope, no comments. Sounds good.
Councillor Goyda,
All good.
Councillor Spillis.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, all in favor, Councillor Bailey,
Yeah, in favor.
Councillor Balmer,
In favor.
Councillor Goyda. So I could read your lips, but you're
In
muted.
favor.
And Councillor Spillis.
In favor.
Okay, next one, Finance 2020-042, Ms. Hassan.
So the purpose of this report is to provide council with the development charge rates that are to be indexed effective January 1st, 2021. And it's in accordance with the Development Charges Act, and it's an annual report that we provide to council.
Mover for that, please. Councillor Bailey, second by Councillor
Second.
Spillis. Oh, too slow. Councillor Bailey, any comments?
No, no comments.
Are you in favor?
I am.
Councillor Balmer, any comments?
And no comments in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Goyda,
No comments. In favor.
Councillor Spillis.
No comments in favor.
Perfect. Ms. Hassan, 043, please.
So just the purpose of this report is to request from council the appointment of BDO Canada LLP as the township's auditor for an additional 1-year period for the 2020 fiscal year end.
Thank you. And mover for that, please. Councillor Bailey, and I got Councillor Goyda as a seconder. Councillor Bailey, questions?
No questions.
In favor?
In favor.
Councillor Balmer,
No questions in favor.
Councillor Goyda,
No questions. In favor.
Councillor Spillis,
No questions in favor.
and that's carried again. And Ms. Ms. Hassan, 045, please.
Sorry.
044.
Yep. So the purpose of this report is just to report back to council on the results of the public meeting that was held in September related to the 2021 user fees and charges, and to provide some minor updates to the bylaw based on further information that staff received after the public meeting, and to seek approval from council to enact the 2021 user fees and charges bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Mover, please. Councillor Ballmer? Yep. Seconder? Councillor Goida? All right. Comments? Councillor Bailey?
I guess my one comment is just in the increase to the fees to the dog tags. Are we going to be talking about that later?
Yes, so that increase is as recommended in a further report that I'll be talking about.
2 reports.
Yeah, 2 reports down. It is in line with municipal comparators, and we haven't increased our fee since 2014. So,
Okay, I guess I don't know if we're talking about this now, but my concern was just that in the past, when I was asked about the dog tag program, it pays for itself, was my understanding. So I'm just not sure why an increase in fee would be needed unless the program we're bringing in is just more costly. So I'm just not clear on why we're increasing the tag fee.
so the report that talks about the DocuPet dog licensing program, one of the increases relates to implementing that program should council adopt the new program.
So I guess it'd be fair to say if we don't support the DocuPet dog licensing program, then we could come back and revisit the fee for the dog license in this report. Is that a fair statement?
Did you want to maybe just table this report for a moment until you get to the DocuPet and then come back to this one?
Sure, it is tabled. Well, let's go. I only had Ms. Bailey speak, so I'll let these rest of the council speak, and then we'll go down to the DocuPet one. Councillor Ballmer.
Hello, thank you. I didn't have an issue than I think Councillor Bailey has raised, and the CAO have identified perhaps just a procedural wrinkle in terms of, I'm sorry, I didn't memorize whether the new fee was reflected in this bylaw or not. If the new fee is not, then we should just pass it as it is, and then they can change it after we do the DocuPet thing. But if the new fee is in here before we've approved DocuPet, then we should do the DocuPet first.
Yeah, so we're just gonna give everybody an option to talk. Councillor Goida.
No, I have nothing else to add.
Councillor Spillis.
I'm fine with the way it's written.
Okay, so let's deal with Finance 2020-046. Get a mover for that real quick. Councillor Spillis, seconder. Councillor Bailey, and then Mrs. Sandy, give us a synopsis on that, please.
So the purpose of this report is to seek council's approval to award a single source contract for the implementation of the DocuPet licensing program. And I know that it's I'd love to be able to answer any of the questions that you guys have at this time.
Okay, well, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I love the idea of this program. I really like that it would be based on a 365-day renewal. I think that's great, and would take a lot off the staff, I'm sure. My one question is, does the tagging, is there opportunity to put the homeowner's phone number on the back of the tags that would be handed out?
Ms. Hassan, do you know that?
Yeah, sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head, but I could ask the vendor.
Okay. And I guess getting back to my original question, so in the purpose of increasing the dog tags, I understand it's comparable to other municipalities, but setting that aside, is it needed in order to bring in this program?
Yeah, so the increase just relates to ensuring that we are revenue neutral as it relates to this program if we were to implement through DocuPet, just to cover the administrative fees that would be incurred to outsource this service. So through the budget process, there would be no tax levy impact based on increase in the fee that's being recommended in this to outsource through DocuPet.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Councillor Bellmer.
Thank you. No, I agree with Councillor Bailey. It's, can we get a docu-file permit as well so that we get a 365, the number of people who complain about the, anyhow, it doesn't matter. Yes, this is great. I was approached, must be more than 10 years ago by a resident wanting us to adopt a system like this. When these systems first, were around, I don't know if it was the same one. And other than having to read this thing 3 or 4 times to figure out what the heck that word was that I'd never heard before, I thought it was a typo that kept repeating. But now I understand it's DocuPet. So yeah, it sounds great. I think it's a program our residents will benefit from, and it'd be a lot easier for them to use. So thank you very much for bringing it to us. I support it.
Okay. Councillor Goyda.
Yes, thank you. I also agree that I think this is a, this will make things much simpler and much more, give much more incentive for people to actually purchase a dog tag. I did have one question, which is maybe an anomaly and maybe doesn't apply to anyone other than myself. But the way it's written right now is that the existing tags would be valid until the end of February when this program takes place. But I'm just wondering about, so that's great if you already have a dog with a tag, but if between now and March 1st, you get a dog that needs a tag, can you purchase one and will it be valid for the whole year, or will the person then need to purchase a new one through the DocuPet as of March 1st?
It would take a pretty honest person to buy one and then buy a second one a few months later, but
I guess I've just opened the door for myself.
I think they would just wait, but I'll let Ms. Hassan answer that question.
So the reason why we requested that 2020 dog licenses should be valid until February 20th, 2021 is just relates to the timing associated with implementing through DocuPet. I guess they need a few, like a couple months to implement. And so we didn't want to be utilizing our current program in conjunction with the new program. So we would recommend that you apply through the DocuPet program in March 2021.
Okay, so if a dog is not having a license between now and then, there's a bit of a grace period.
I think so, just because we don't want to have both programs being implemented at the same time.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Councillor Spoulos.
I fully support it. It brings us into the 21st century. Very well received.
Yeah.
At least on this topic.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Okay, I'll have Ms. Whitefox read that resolution, please.
That report FIN, sorry, just one sec. Sorry. The report FIN 2020-046 regarding the DocuPet licensing program be received, and that council authorized a single source award for the implementation of the DocuPet licensing program, and that council authorized the 2021 dog licensing fee to be increased to $30 per tag, and that council authorized the establishment of a replacement tag fee of $10, and that council authorized all 2020 dog licenses issued be valid until February 28th, 2021, and that council authorized the direction of the Safe and Happy Fund online donations to the Cambridge and District Humane Society.
Okay, mover for that, please.
I move.
Thank you, Councillor Ballmer. Second by Councillor Spoulos. Councillor Bailey, all in favor?
Yep, I'm in favor.
Councillor Ballmer.
In favor.
Councillor Goyda.
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. All right, now back to the user fees and charges bylaw. You want to read that resolution again, please, Whitefox?
That report FIN 2020-044 regarding the 2021 user fees and charges bylaw be received, and that council give 3 readings to bylaw number 2020-059 being a bylaw to adopt the user fees and charges bylaw.
Mover for that, please.
Sure, move it.
Councillor Spoulos, seconder. Councillor Bailey, comments and in favor, Councillor Bailey?
No comments and in favor.
Okay, Councillor Balmer?
In favor.
All right, Councillor Goida?
No comments and in favor.
Councillor Spoulos?
No comments and in favor.
Excellent. Now, Ms. Hassan, 045, please.
So this is just another annual report that's provided to council as it relates to the Municipal Performance Measurement Program report for 2019. And as done in previous years, we will publish the report on the township's website.
Excellent. Ms. Whitefox, you want to read that resolution, please?
That report FIN 2020-045 regarding the Municipal Performance Measurement Program report for 2019 be received.
Okay, mover for that, please. Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Spoulos. Questions and in favor, Councillor Bailey?
I have no questions and I'm in favor.
Excellent. Councillor Balmer?
Thank you. Yes, stay tuned. I think it's sometime in February or so, we'll get the giant BMA report that puts all the municipalities' FIR reports into one thing and compares apples to oranges and causes a whole bunch of people to be concerned, but it is somewhat helpful. I must admit, I wish it was more comparable. It's a great thing for us to have. At least we can compare some years to some years, although the reporting requirements change from year to year sometimes, so it makes it more difficult. But I think it's still helpful in some regards, so I support it. Thank you.
Councillor Goida?
No comments and in favor.
Okay, and Councillor Spoulos?
No comments and in favor.
Okay, now, admin, we have 2020-052. Ms. Whitefox, you read that resolution, please?
That report ADM 2020-052 regarding the health and safety policy and harassment and violence in the workplace policy annual review be received, and that council endorse the health and safety policy and harassment and violence in the workplace policy included as Schedule A and B respectively.
Thank you. Before I get a mover and seconder, I'll give you an opportunity to just give a little synopsis of that. I believe that's your report.
Yes, so this is just a review of both policies that's done on an annual basis in accordance with legislation, and that we bring forward to council for endorsement again on an annual basis.
Thank you. Can I get a mover for that, please? Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Goida. Comments, Councillor Bailey?
No comments.
In favor?
Yes, I am.
Councillor Balmer?
In favor.
Okay, Councillor Goida?
In favor.
Yep. And Councillor Spoulos?
Favor.
All right. The county one, Mersey roads, nothing. Any correspondence, none. Council reports. Okay. Council, need some direction. As we know, we're in our budget season, and we can tell by how busy Ms. Hassan is. And we have been given that bill from Guelph Junction Railway for a significant amount of money. I believe it's around $80,000. And staff have inquired with their staff, and legislatively we're required to pay that bill. That's the end of the story, essentially. However, I feel that the direction we should take is a delegation to the city of Guelph to ask for consideration of reducing that amount. So essentially asking them to make a political decision, even though we are legislated to pay it. I feel that with their budget being 500 million and ours being 5 million, and we have less than 1% of their population, that we could come together on a cost sharing agreement for the maintenance and upgrades of the Guelph Junction Railway. Especially since this is not just regular maintenance, this is a service improvement to drive more trains, faster trains, more profits. And I do recognize that Puslinch residents do benefit from the railroad and the goods that come on those trains. That's why I feel that we should pay a portion of that 80,000. So today I just want to have a discussion, what your thoughts are on delegating to Guelph to ask for some consideration on that bill during this tough COVID budget season. And I believe that the staff avenue has been exhausted, and we'll see what you guys think. And yeah, Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, are you thinking about this as a one-time reprieve, or this is looking ahead as well?
Preferably, I would request them to enter into a cost sharing agreement for the future as well. But
I'm supportive of you going as a delegation. Yes.
Mr. Schwendinger, should I let you give your insight on this a little bit, maybe before give another perspective on it, or what are your thoughts?
I think you've covered it fairly well. Basically, the couple of options that there are is go as a delegation to council, or just request a, like we've gone through the staff process, unless you just wanted to have a meeting maybe between the two mayors or something like that before you go to delegation. Those are the choices up to council what you want to do. I think you spoke to the delegations part quite well and what your objectives would be. If council's looking for another option, it might be just request a meeting first, but your choice.
I have had some, not offline, but private conversations with the mayor, and I don't feel that that avenue is open any longer. So I feel that it needs to be a decision of their council as a whole. And it's not going to be going in there and being critical. It's going to be going in and asking for a favor, you know, and just the reality of the situation that this railroad is making a profit for the city of Guelph. They have a very large budget compared to ours. This is a 2% tax levy increase, which is significant, difficulties in our budget and on our constituents. And I believe it's within their means to give us some consideration. So, Councillor Balmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm terribly disappointed that it's been exhausted at the staff level. I do have some, I would maybe be more comfortable to give you some broader latitude to explore a couple of mayor and CAO to mayor and CAO level, so that you have both levels there. And if that falls apart, then you already have, approval to go as a delegation as well. What I'm concerned is we don't have anything in writing from them necessarily saying no to a different cost sharing agreement. Perhaps that would give me some more comfort if I had evidence of being denied at the staff level, as opposed to just hearing that there's no interest from the mayor, or hearing that there's nothing at the staff level. I guess that's, but I recognize time is of the essence as budget season rolls through. And to them, if we went 75%, that'd be, I hate to say it, but it'd be a rounding error on their budget, but it's a big impact on ours. So I would like to give you the double approval that you and the CAO arrange a meeting with the mayor and the CAO. And if that doesn't work, then you sign up as a delegation and pitter patter, let's get the talking going, because both of our budgets are likely going to be pretty much finalized before we get this ironed out. Based on going as a delegation, that wouldn't be till January anyway. So, and we'll be pretty much finished our process by then, or very close. So those would be my comments, but I support stepping it up.
I will clarify, I believe our staff has correspondence from the board of Guelph Junction Railway indicating that it's our responsibility to pay. I am more than willing to sit down with the mayor and the CAO and our CAO and try one more kick at the can and see if we can get something done. I've got a text on my phone from him right now, but I'm receptive of that, Councillor Balmer. Councillor Goyda.
Yes, thank you. I think that I would agree. Sorry, Mayor Sealy, could you just skip me for a second? My kids are just here off the bus. I just need to get them organized. Can you come back to me in just 1 second?
Yes,
I
for sure.
apologize. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. I'll go. Did you want me to wait so that you can hear what Councillor Sapoulis? I'll wait. We'll take 2 minutes. Glenn, was that a misstatement? Some staff received correspondence from Guelph Junction Railway, did they not?
That's correct. I had sent communication to their CAO with the request from our municipality. that request was forwarded to the head, their head of staff for the railway. I forget the title of the person, but the head of the railway division of the city. And we received correspondence back from that individual, basically saying it's the obligation of the municipality under legislation.
And also, council, for your information, City of Guelph has already passed their budget, and I was made aware of that, but you know, you can make an adjustment of $80,000 on a $5 million budget. It's not gonna do anything crazy. So sorry, Goida, I was just saying when you stepped up, we do have some correspondence from Guelph Junction Railway indicating that it is our responsibility. That's my mistake. I probably should have had that included in the agenda, but it's just an oversight on my part. So, and you have some questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that little blip there. I think that we owe it to our constituents that we at least exhaust every option available to us. So, you know, I'm reluctant that it is going to get us anywhere, but I think that we owe it to them to at least make that ask. And so I would support you going as a delegation to the city.
Thank you. Councilor Spoulos?
I support you doing whatever is necessary to try to persuade them to be good neighbors. I'd like to point out a couple of things. This isn't the only crossing in Puslinch. There's, I think, at least 3 more. And 3 times 80,000 is $250,000. So that might be something you might argue with them as well. The other thing that my understanding of the legislation is whoever was there first, either the road or the railway, has the right to call the shots. So I'd like to ask staff to investigate whether or not our road was there before the railroad. In other words, if we were there before they were, then too bad. They have the obligation to ask us permission to go across a railway. The other thing is there must be agreement way back in place that permitted this to go through Puslinch. We should try to find that original agreement and see what it says in terms of cost sharing as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Spoulos. That's why I lean towards a cost sharing agreement versus just reprieve from this one-off, because I was also aware that there was other crossings we had, and we're all familiar with Hume Road crossing. This is just the tip of the iceberg. If you truly wanted to make that the safest crossing you could, there's some major reconstruction that needs to be done there. The crossing is essentially in a valley, and the sight lines are awful, and I believe our staff had installed stop signs at the railway track so that cars would have less likely chance of being collided with the train. So I will tell you that whenever I prepare a delegation, I always send it to Glenn to put his polish on it. You know, sometimes, you know, things could be maybe a little too harsh or even the other way. So we will work together on that delegation. But initially we'll reach out to the mayor and the CAO and try to have a meeting. And I hope they'll be reasonable and give us a little bit of concession on this for our taxpayers.
Could I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Absolutely.
I think Councillor Spoulos raised a very excellent point when he talks about the other crossings, and it makes me think, is there any other examples we can look at? You know, this makes me think of, you know, boundary road agreements. Are there any other municipalities that have such cost sharing agreements with, well, what would be a short line railway like this is?
Mr. Schwindiger? I'll come to you, Councillor Spoulos.
I'm not aware of any, but that's not saying that there isn't some somewhere. In terms of the legislation that governs this, my experience with it, my understanding is that this is quite old legislation that was put in place federally at the time when they were trying to put railways across the country and make it as easy as possible and you know, least problems. So it favored the owners operators of the railway. And that's why we're still with it, and it really hasn't been updated in 100+ years. So that's kind of this scenario that we're in, that based on the experience that I've had.
Well, thank you. And then the last piece would be that, to Councillor Spoulos' comment about who was there first. One thing in our favor is that Puslinch existed prior to Confederation. So there's a good chance it was there first, and you can always, I can direct anybody who's interested to the diaries of Duncan McFarlane, which are searchable online, where he chronicles the building, working on the building of the railway through the township. So I'm sure there's some interesting reading and some interesting dates in there. So thank you.
Yeah, that brings a question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Spillis, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, this line goes into Milton, so they have to have some agreements in Milton with respect to maintenance on this line. Second of all, this is a short line railroad, and accordingly, it's covered under the Ontario legislation. But if you look at the Ontario legislation, they defer to the federal legislation for any decisions. And if you look at the federal decision, anytime it goes to arbitration, it favors the person who was there first. In other words, if the road was there first, then it'll favor the road entity, and if the municipality. If the railroad was there first and the municipality wants to put the road in, well, you're at the mercy of the railroad. So I think it requires a little bit more extra work. I know it's probably too late for the budget cycle, but we got 3 more plus crossings to worry about, and I think we should get our act together with respect to this.
Yeah, hopefully they just, decide to be a friendly neighbor and help us on this one versus we can just go through all this rigmarole. The other thing, Mr. Fowler, we did some upgrades to the aprons on concession 11 at the crossing for the same railway. Did Guelph Junction pay 50% of those costs?
At the time, the individual who I dealt with was Les Preston. He's the manager of Guelph Junction Railway. He indicated that the township's bill did cover 50% of the cost. That was basically Guelph Junction's word. We didn't receive any type of verification as to what the final costs were. It's basically, they seem to call us up out of the blue and say, we're doing this railway crossing. We need this X amount of dollars for the upcoming season. Please place it in your budget.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to see if we had paid for half of that or the entire thing. Councillor Spillis?
Mr. Mayor, I really feel that we should be looking at if there's an existing agreement on this as well. And I'd like to move a motion to effect that we ask staff to look into it. I know it's too late for this budget cycle, but I do think we should at least exhaust that avenue before we get into this thing in another 2 or 3 years.
I agree. Are you a seconder for that motion?
Yeah, I'll second that. And then I have a comment, an important piece for the staff to understand too.
Okay. Councillor Bailey, comment on Councillor Spillis' motion? Do you need to repeat it?
Perhaps, no, I'm just wondering if part of it could also include future planning. So instead of just being told, by the way, we've got this that needs work, could we not be part of the, not the planning, but just knowing ahead of time so stuff can be budgeted?
We can form that as part of the discussion when we have it with them. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Just to try and show them the impacts on our budget, so that we can start to plan stuff like we do for our own capital forecast, 10 years out kind of thing. If they clearly know what's going to be happening there, if they could share that information more than a year or two in advance, that would be helpful for expenditures of this level.
Okay. Councillor Bulmer?
Yeah, just the piece I was going to comment was, I think we should make best use of Councillor Sapoulis' experience in this area as well. And it may be the city of Guelph is relying on the fact that this was at one time a CP rail line, but has since become a short rail line, down to, it's because it used to go to Owen Sound, and they pulled it all up all the way to the north end of Guelph, and then so there may be some change in thinking when there's a recognition, a change of which legislation applies. Thanks to Councillor Spoulis bringing that, that to our attention. So we should look into that as well.
Okay. Councillor Guida?
I would support that.
All right. So that all in favor? Well, you'll set everybody in favor for that one. Now, Councillor Bulmer, do you want to move a notice of motion for the CAO and I to meet with the mayor and their CAO. And then if those talks are not successful, move to a delegation in the city of Guelph.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking of amending the one that was you were already doing, but if you want a second one, I don't, whatever, I don't mind moving that too, giving permission to start with a meeting.
Yeah, we'll keep it separate just because one's staff direction and one's direction for myself. So if you don't
Well,
mind.
both, yeah, sure. But it's going to be you and staff probably attending the council meeting as a delegation, is it not?
Yes, it'll be the CAO. Whatever. Somebody amend the first one or give me a new one. Whatever way you want to do it.
Well, I'll move to give you permission to.
I'll amend the motion to include we delegate the authority to the mayor and CEO to meet with their counterparts in the city of Guelph to discuss relief of fees on this crossing, and further, if necessary, to delegate to Guelph City Council.
I'll second that. That's well worded.
Excellent. Thank you, councilors. Councilor Bailey, in favor, comments?
Yep, support that.
Okay. Councilor Balmer,
In favor.
Councilor Goida,
In favor.
Councilor Spoulos,
In favor.
in favor too. That's carried. Any reports from members of council? Nothing. Okay. Bylaws, I believe, Ms. Whitefox.
That the following bylaws be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-058 being a bylaw to adopt the council committees and other appointments, compensation benefits and expense policy, and to repeal bylaw number 012-2018 and bylaw number 066-2018. And bylaw 2020-059 being a bylaw to permit the municipality to impose fees or charges with respect to services or activities provided, related costs payable, and for the use of its property, and to repeal bylaw 069-2019.
Mover for those, please. Councilor Goida, I saw you lift your arm. Councilor Spoulos, second. All in favor, Councilor Bailey, or any comments?
No, in favor.
Okay, Councilor Bulmer,
In favor.
Councilor Goida,
In favor.
Councilor Spoulos,
In favor.
and that's carried. Closed session, none. Any business arising from the closed session that we didn't have? No, that was a joke. That was- Notice of motion, Councilor Spoulos.
Yes, I put the motion forward. I'm concerned about staff working long hours and burning out. We've seen examples where we get agendas Saturday morning, Friday late night. And my take on this, we want the staff to be on their A game to serve our residents and to help us out. And I think this COVID crisis is causing inefficiencies which do not normally occur in an office environment. In an office environment, you could go across the hall and talk to your counterpart and get something done quickly. We're working from home. You got to email and you got to call on the telephone, and you got kids at home and you got distractions. And I may be wrong, but I'm looking at a way of reducing the staff workload by perhaps moving to a 3-week or a 4-week cycle for council meetings. I've looked on the internet and searched where there's other examples. There's an example of Tiny Township, which is about 1.5 times the size of us, and they have meetings every 3 weeks. City of London has meetings every 3 weeks. Our neighbors to the southwest, North Dumfries, has meetings every month. So I know there's pros and cons with each, with staying or moving on. And I'd like to give the option to staff to look at it and to see what works best. I know they might be reluctant to propose something that might be perceived as self-serving, but this is the opportunity for them to look at it. And to me, it's for during the COVID crisis. We're into something that's unique and novel, and if there's ways to help staff out, I'm all for reducing the number of council meetings.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder for that so we can discuss it? Councilor Goida. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Spillis. I had some discussions with the CAO on this, and I agree with you as long as it's a benefit to staff. For me, I need the whole day off if the meeting starts at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. So I would like staff to look at it as well. It has to be a benefit to them. They're in a very cyclical situation right now where they just finished one, and like you said, you send an email and you're waiting for them, another member to reply, and time is ticking away. So they just get one agenda built and they have to build another. So if there's a way that they can provide, some efficiencies and we still are able to get the work done, I'm at least willing to see the report. So, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I definitely support. I support it because I can see from a staffing perspective how it would give some more efficiencies with a little more time in between. My initial reaction is just, if from a personal perspective, if I'm given a bigger agenda, I just want to make sure I have time to get a deep understanding of it and not have such a big agenda that I can't cover everything. So maybe with this, we could also be getting the agenda a little bit earlier, just to give us more time before it comes. So whether there's like a pre, I don't know what you would call that, a preview of what's to come, just to give us a little bit of heads up, that's all. But I support that.
I understand what you're saying, Councillor Bailey. So if there's correspondence that come in early in the month, they could be put on our Councillor Share folder that we'll be seeing at that one meeting. We can read it the first couple of weeks. I agree, because if we have a longer agenda and it's coming up on the Friday and we only have 3 days, 4 days to plow through it, that's going to be very difficult. So, Councillor Bomer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Sapoulis. I think this is a good look. It's a sign of a good maturing level of the governance team, thinking about what's best for the organization as well. And I think that's always a healthy thing. I think Councillor Bailey makes an interesting point, and I think of some of the organizations that I've sat on boards with, and sometimes just the agenda comes out a week in advance and the information package is released a day or two later, to give you a sense of what you're in for. But I'm sure staff will, I think that's what part of Councillor Sapoulis's motion is, to give staff the latitude to spend some time thinking about this. And it's good that we're providing the feedback on what would make it work for us as well. I support it, and we may learn lessons from this during the COVID that we can go on to apply post-COVID to see an organization that is run more effectively and is better for staff as well. And if it helps us retain staff and retain happier, effective staff, then it can only lead to better things. So thank you very much. I support it 100%.
Councillor Gordon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sapoulis, for bringing this forward. I definitely support having staff report back to us on this. I think it's important to have their input and their guidance as to what works best. I know, like for myself personally, sometimes when I have longer deadlines, I defer stuff, and then it just piles up all together and becomes an even bigger job. And I'm not sure if by spreading out the time between meetings, it just makes it more cumbersome on staff to get more into one meeting. But I don't know, that's I guess staff need to tell us those things. So I would be in support of having staff report back on it, and I would be supportive of their recommendations either way.
Okay. One concern I had as well is with this government, we've seen it with the conservation authorities. We've been fortunate having our 2 meetings per month, that if we had to provide comments for some listing on the EBR or ERO, whatever it's called now, and we were meeting regularly enough that we could make those deadlines. So I just want to ensure that we can still call a meeting if necessary, whether it be an hour long, to address anything that comes down from our provincial counterparts. That would be a priority for me, but other than that, I agree we should let staff look at it and see if we can come up with something that works for everyone. Councillor Spillis, did you have any further comments you wanted to say?
I don't. Thank you very much, Council, for your support. I'd like to hear our CAO's comments before we close off.
Mr. Schwendinger?
Sure. Thank you very much for the consideration and for raising the topic. Yes, we definitely can bring forward a report to you with a number of considerations. We would want to make sure that we balance it out, like you said, that it's to adjust the workload and the unnecessary duplication that might be taking place, but not too far of a gap that it makes the meetings too long or we miss specified deadlines or response times or things like that. I think that the reality is that every agenda package that we put out, regardless of how many items are on it, there's a fixed amount of work and staff time in terms of staff hours to compile it, to issue it, to do the minutes and all that. Whether there's 5 items on it or 10 items on it, it still takes a similar amount of time to prepare that. So if we could kind of gather them together and maybe have meetings, possibly every 3 weeks or something like that, we could definitely see some benefits to that. And we've also looked at some examples of maybe portions of the agenda could be available ahead of time as well. Some of them simply can't because of when we get the reports from consultants or when staff can complete the reports, but maybe the consent agenda items or correspondence or things like that we could put on a shared drive. You can read ahead of time, but then still have it included in the formal agenda, but just so that you can have some access to possibly read ahead of time. Lots of things like that we could do to try and help out with the overall administration. But as staff, we definitely thank you for the consideration of this.
Okay, I'll call a vote on that. All in favor? Councillor Bailey?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Councillor Ballmer?
In favor.
Councillor Goida?
In favor.
Councillor Spillis?
Favor.
I'm in favor. Any new business, folks? Announcements, we did them already.
No, I have some announcements.
Oh, do you? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Ballmer, sorry.
Thank you, because the other ones were supposed to be for committee work. This is announcements, So I noticed that we got the new Bang the Table software is up, and in the spirit of good news, I haven't shared this with staff yet, and probably I should. The Optimist Club was approached by the Children's Foundation of Guelph, asking if they would help them bring the Trees for Tots program here to the township. And being the fine group of folks that they are, they said yes, and they have worked together to help bring the Trees for Tots program here for this Christmas. If you're not familiar with it, it's a program where you register your Christmas tree with the Trees for Tots, put it out for a donation of $10, at minimum donation of $10 to Trees for Tots. You put the tree out at the curb Saturday, January 9th, and a local volunteer will come pick it up and take it to one of 2 chipping stations that will be set up here in the township. And I think I want to put a big thanks out to Mr. Fowler from the Public Works, who immediately stepped up and offered the township chipper himself and at least one other staff member to run a chipping site at the municipal yard to be our east side. And I got to say, it was very nice to have the township back in the fold, as it were, as part of a community partner to help make this happen. And we also have a west side chipping site, thanks to John Sloot of Sloot Construction coming forward and offering their chipper and staff at the Little Track parking lot, which has been provided graciously by the County of Wellington. So we'll have an east and west location. We've got residents, I think it'll be the Optimist Club members will be signing up to pick up the trees. But the most important part is we need to have residents sign up to have their trees picked up. And I can share that link with members of council and put on our good news page on the Bang the Table. And just, I noticed we've probably got a couple of hours to our next meeting, so I wanted to make a few more comments to try and fill that time.
Courtney, mute him, Courtney.
But I just want to say thank you. This has been an incredible year. We've had 3 CAOs in the first half of this term of council. This is the end of 2020. I got to say, this team has really gelled this year. The change we've gone through has been really great to experience, be part of. It's so nice to be part of a team that shares and listens. I've seen development at the department head level. I've seen it at the council level. It's so great to be part of it. And Councillor Bailey, welcome aboard. I hope you're enjoying yourself. And to the CAO, I'm sure you haven't got everything done that you thought you'd get done in your first year here, but I've been on the farm for 30 years and I still haven't got everything done. So you've got time left. So thank you to all, and I wish you all a good Christmas.
Thank you, Councillor Balmer. And maybe we'll go around, and because sometimes it's an oversight on my part, and it is the last meeting before Christmas and the New Year. So Councillor Bailey, do you have any comments?
No, I just want to say thanks, Councillor Balmer. It has been a good year. I feel like I'm finally settling in, and thanks for all your patience, all of you. Yeah, I just want to wish everyone a good Christmas and New Year.
Councillor Goyna.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Balmer, for bringing that forward. That was really a nice little sign off from you. So I too would like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. It has really been quite a year that probably none of us expected to go the way it did. But I think everyone, staff, council, residents, community, everyone has really pulled together, and it makes me very proud to be on this council. So thank you to everyone, and Merry Christmas.
Councillor Spoulos.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody and wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, Matthew, for bringing that up. I mean, I get so focused on just running a meeting and making sure it runs smooth, and I don't garble my words. But as a new mayor, it's been my privilege to work with the individuals around this horseshoe, and Jessica and I were where Sarah was when just at the beginning of the term, and we were just like, oh my gosh. And so we felt your pain, Sarah, and you're doing very well. And again, it's times I've heard compliments about our council saying, oh, you can have disagreements or difference of opinions, but you talk it out and then you come to a consensus, and it's cordial and it's all good, and it's very rewarding for myself. Even though I'm a passionate individual, I might get a little red in the cheeks once in a while, but I respect each and every one of you, your opinions and what you bring to the table. And I also appreciate the support when I give you a call and I bend your ear on whatever your specialty is. And it's very rewarding. And I think that's a component of being a council member in a community, is it's not for monetary gain. You get your kicks some other way. If you feel like you're doing good for the community and keeping it on track. No pun intended, Councillor Spoulos, because you came from a railway background, but yeah, it's all good work. So Merry Christmas, be safe. Let's hope next year, 2021, brings some mass amount of vaccines and we can get back to some normalcy. Staff, I appreciate putting up with my late night texts and sometimes these cockamamie ideas that Glenn has to reel me in and say, no, you can't do that. It's going to cost the township too much money, because I'm being a little facetious, but I tend to bounce a lot of ideas off Glenn, and with his wealth of experience, and Mary working so hard, I see all these reports at the end of the year. I can just imagine your workload. And also out to the public works employees, this is their busy season. They're probably busy all the time, but now the weather, they're on call 24/7, and they're dedicated to the township, and they're glued to the TV for weather systems. Our firefighters, same situation, they're out. This is everybody's busy time, and everybody pulls up their pants and they do what they have to do, and they work hard, and we appreciate it. And that's evident by the long service. We got young guys with their 5 years in, and we got guys that got decades and decades in. So very appreciative of everybody. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and stay safe. And what do we have now? Confirmatory bylaw. Courtney, I didn't forget you. You work hard too. It's hard to cover everybody. Everybody does a fantastic job.
Thank you, Mayor Sealy. The following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-060 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the Township of Puss Lynch at its meeting held on the 16th day of December 2020.
All right, can I get a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
All right, and a seconder. Councillor Goida, all in favor? Councillor Bailey,
Yep, in favor.
Councillor Palmer,
In favor?
Councillor Goida,
In favor.
Councillor Spoulos.
In favor?
All right, sorry, I know I went on and on there, but I don't want to leave out any employee. I just want to reiterate, the fire chiefs, everybody in the organization is appreciated. And I look forward to the next 2 years. And for that, that's the last thing I'm going to say. Adjournment, please, Ms. White Fox.
Council hereby adjourns at 4:10 p.m.
Thank you. Mover for that, please. Councillor Spoulos. Seconder, who wants it?
I will.
Councillor Bailey, in favor. Councillor Bailey. In favor, Councillor Bailey. Did I lose her? I think we lost her. We're gonna move on.
Frozen.
We don't, yeah, Councillor Palmer,
In favor?
Councillor Goida. Oh, I hear you there now, Councillor.
In
Did you hear
favor.
me?
Councillor Spoulos. Yeah, we got you back. Excellent. Councillor Spoulos, you in
There we
favor? Okay, great meeting, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See you in a few hours.
All right.
Take care.